Okay, any of you out there who know this, I'm going to ask you to fill me in on the comments. But I'll say what I know. And that'd be, someone left me a comment the other day saying that Richard Grannon had a big falling out with Sam Vaknin. And Sam Vaknin was like being like very childish and dismissive. And it's like these guys were creating content together. They both ignore me. I used to be mates with Richard, I used to like him. But we lost contact, and it's like he doesn't respond to any correspondence I have with him nowadays. Probably would send Richard an email saying we should catch up. Maybe twice a year. And every time try a different method of reaching him. So, well, maybe he just doesn't see. So it's like, I wouldn't say he's avoiding me, but I think he might have moved on. You know what I mean? Because I'm like the street version, aren't I? I'm like the lowest of the low version of what he does, or what he's doing. And there was a time when I knew more than he did. So it's like, I'm someone who was up here in my understandings, and he was on his way. And then he got as high as me, he learned what I had to tell him, and then he moved on and found himself someone who knew more, being Vaknin. And the Vaknin friendship, let's say, or collaboration, I'm not gonna call it a romance, because it's not. Sorry. Sorry, I had to. I'm not going to call it a romance because I don't think that's what it was. Sam Vaknin from nowhere started making videos saying that everyone's rubbish who talks on this subject except for Richard Grannon. Richard Grannon's got some real insight, and it's like, it's weird that, because Richard's insights have changed since he collaborated with me for a bit. But now suddenly Richard Grannon's the one who gets it. But I'm someone who doesn't. To Vaknin, I'm like someone who's blocked. I asked him for some advice once when I was in a difficult situation. And he just blocked me. Bang. Where the correct advice I needed was, run for your life, and I'll give anyone that advice that asks for it. In view of what the question I put to him was. And it was like, just think of one man to another who's in crisis. And he just goes, blocked. Now, weird, it's like, if you're a woman and you make friends with him on Facebook and ask him a question, he'll help you. Like, what? Yeah, and he'll try, like, fuck to huckster you buying his book off him. It's like, yeah, I'll answer your questions, buy my book. Because it is all about a quid. And it's like, in the first instance, Grannon was full of praise for, Vaknin was full of praise for Richard. It's like he went, come to me, Richard, come to me. And then the next thing you know, they're mates and they're working together and they're collaborating. And it'd be, Richard is able, they're similar creatures, So it's like, Richard's like a different flavour of the same nature. They're both really narcissistic. They've both got backgrounds of like abuse. They're both like scratching up the same tree, It's like everyone is who talks about cluster B stuff. Everybody's talking about everyone all at once because no one's immune from this kind of thing. So it's like something has happened between these two, and it's like, as a narcissist who's fallen out with you will do, he's taken a full reverse. He's saying, I don't want to say any of this. It's nothing to do with me. He's saying this, but he's also saying, start a group on Facebook, the victims of Richard Grannon, and there's a group. And then he puts it out on his Twitter that a group started on Facebook, the victims of Richard Grannon. And do you know what they'll be? Right? If Richard Grannon wanted to be Andrew Tate, he could do that because he's got that level of understanding of human beings. He has. Right? Just throwing it in there as Grannon knows his psychology. And the dirtier street end psychology, the things that only the people in the lowest places know, he learned some of that for himself, and he learned some of that from me as well. And then there was things he always knew that he never dared to look at. It's like, so, right, if there are victims of Richard Grannon, like, you know, he's been doing a bit of, I don't know, grooming, let's say, or he's been taking advantage of people who've come to him for treatment. It's like, right, some fans of Richard Grannon are absolutely fucking crazy loopy people who think they're witches and psychic. Richard, if the topic was ever to be raised with him as to the craziest of the crazy people who follow him as fans, right, that would be a more interesting podcast than anything he's put out in the last, and he's done some good work, but that would be more interesting still. When I used to be friends with him, one of his stalkers, because that's a problem that Grannon's got, is stalkers. People who are thinking about, who are transfixed him in the mind. They've decided they love him. And they wake up thinking about him first thing in the morning and last thing at night, and they write him pages long love letters about that they things like he's had a woman stalking him, right, for, I don't know if she's still around, but she's fucking loony. And she wants him back. Right? What? Yeah, well, yeah, it's like, well, you see, she's like a person who reincarnates. Right? She reincarnates. She's like the 10th version of herself who's been reincarnating down the ages. Right? And in every incarnation, he was her husband. Right? The time-travelling prostitute. And thing is, where it's like, he might have been a bit open to her, because once upon a time, that crazy cow used to be able to get on people's supernatural radio shows on YouTube, saying that she worked for the cops as a psychic, and saying she'd been to these secret underground bases, and she'd had, like, alien experiences and stuff like that. It's like, she's far out fucking crazy cow. What's she called? A name will come back to me. It's an unusual name. I'll remember it at some stage of the game. But it's like, she was a serious crazy bitch who would tell pretty much anyone any story to get attention. So she used to go on the old aliens and the government secret, all this bullshit. She's someone certainly who's been fucking abused. Right? She's crazy. She's someone who's fucked up. And it's like, people who are fucked up like that, they are the ones who fall into this something beyond. It's because you can't actually face what happened to you. And you probably never will be able to. So you have to live in magical wonderland where aliens thought you were special. And that's why they abducted you. You were seen as having special super talents when you were a child, and that's why you were taken into care. And when you were in that government facility, aliens came. And it's like, maybe your molesters put masks on. What? I'm just saying. You're a kid. But it's like people like that, people who are deeply disturbed, who've been muddying the waters for years, where it comes to like meaningful understandings of the problems people have, is that idiots like her would be cluttering up the airwaves around that time. Of people who have serious concerns about mental health, and then others weaponising it, making it worse, telling all these fucking gaslight stories like, oh yeah, I was abducted by aliens too. Oh, you people out there who were, victims of this. It's like, I'm with you. I'm one of you. I was abducted by aliens as well. It's like, what a grift that were. And it's like, one of them came to be able to actually uncover as being like a dangerous charlatan who'll say anything. She was one of Richard's stalkers. Someone in the comments remember what she was called, please. You'll be out there. She was a fucking dangerous woman. And it's like, Richard's stalkers tend to be people who've obsessed over him like that. Right? It's like, you remember back in the day when I was having a go at Millennial Woes for fawning, being an emotional pimp, being someone who was in his way seeking sympathy or broadcasting on a spectrum that would bring fucking crazy people coming towards him. Well, that's what Richard fell into doing at an earlier stage. And all these women started having designs on him and fixating on him and coming at him. And it's like, they've decided they love him based on things he said on a video where he has maybe moved them, maybe made them feel sorry for him. And in the minds of some people, feeling sorry for someone and loving them are pretty much the same thing. Sympathy being this huge, a currency even? People seek sympathy so much it must have a value by now. You should be able to buy simp coin and it have a value and you'll be able to save some up. And then when someone is feeling sorry for themselves, you send them some simp coin, obviously. But it's like that notion that you're just so funny as to there's a group started on Facebook, the victims of Richard Grannon, and do you know what that'll be, right? Him being punished by crazy women because he's interacted with them. Because he didn't know in the first instance that he were dealing with some time-travelling crazy person, and he treated him like a normal person, right? And then suddenly they've pulled the rug, and they've thrown down and they've claimed their undying love, and we've always been together, we must be together, we're soulmates. When they've thrown that shit down on him and he's gone, whoa, they've seen it as a rejection, right? And become his enemies. He tricked me. He tricked me. I thought he was the one and shit like that. Yeah, he's got the fringiest, looniest, craziest women on the internet as stalkers, Mr. Grannon. It's like, it's funny, but at the same time, it's really creepy because, you know, the shit descend in that wall of text is like, oh fuck no. You're talking about myself and him, we're people who we're pretty good psychologists, you know, and we're reading all this shit and it's like, what does this tell you? And it'd be, somebody lives in a fantasy world and it's like a matter of, she'd probably kill you. You could never meet those expectations she has for how you would be with her that you've always known. Soulmates, you know, you tend to reincarnate together. So in the world, if she dies, you might just croak and then just be born again, and then you have another life, right, seeking each other again. And it's like, it's very romantic, isn't it? Now, there's some people, right, in the New Age community, because for her, that is just a dick strategy, isn't it? Right? In the New Age world, people playing that, you're my soulmate, dick strategy of the time. That was like the pimp's number one weapon. We were probably meant to be together. We're twin flames. You're my soulmate. Oh, that was like just pimp-tastic. You just behave in the way that you behave and have absolutely no fucking boundaries around people. And it's like, there's something familiar about him. It's like, yeah, he's got no fucking boundaries like everyone else you've ever known. I feel like I've known you for years, people say. And it's projection. You hear him say it, it's like, all right, okay, I've signed this one up. Fine, done. You're my twin flame. I feel it too. And the next thing you know, you're in a knickers. And you're like, you know, there's something to this magic, you know. Pimping game, or that kind of pickup game in new age communities is rife. Absolutely rife. It's probably what it is that kind of strategy, but it cuts both ways. It's like, hey baby, what's your sign? The second you buy into it, you sign up for it. How the other half live. The fucking crazy people who decide they can trust somebody based on the vibe. And it'd be a matter of, do they know what the vibe is? And it's like, well, you're not giving them any shit, are you? And that be it. Project everything else onto you. Give back nothing, right? Turn up in a black top like this, around all the hippies. Turn up in a black shirt, put a black coat on, and sit there. And eventually they'll start. Give them nothing and they'll still see things. It's like Grannon, yeah, he knows about how crackpot can get, certainly on the internet. It's like he'd be a reservoir of knowledge of the absurd. And I don't know if he still practices what he does, but it's like Grannon would have the most shocking stories to tell of things he's been told. They would like have you shaking in your boots as to what certain people have done to themselves, have done to other people, have had done to them. So it's like Richard, in his way, because he's gone down the path of being this life coach and shit, he's opened himself up to just random crazy on the internet. Now, that, right, is really high risk. There's people you can talk to who will hurt you, who will fuck with you. And some even do it deliberately. Richard's had it where women have paid for his time because they wanted to attempt to seduce him somehow with magical nonsense. So my reading of like this thing that's been shed on Richard as to it's like, oh my God, it's, well, tell you what, you know, any collective campaign of people to say that Richard's a bad guy, right, will very, very quickly disassemble itself and dissipate into nothing, because those who push themselves to the front will be the crazy witches who've had designs on him for years and hate him because he won't go their way. Richard is many things, but Richard is not a man who gets on an aeroplane and travel halfway around the world for a shag. There are those who would, right? There are those who would, but he's not one of them. So, in reading that, or reading that him and Wagner have fallen out, could be over anything. You'll never know what that's about. Narc people find reasons to fall out with people. and then are very, very good at cutting them out of their lives. Very good at it. Drop you like a bad habit. Don't need you no more. See ya. And then if, as it looks like with Vagnin, the way he's behaving, because are you allowed to psychoanalyse Vagnin himself? It's like he's devalued him. Now, you get devalued off someone you collaborate with. Right enough in this life, it's like if you, anyone you collaborate with, if you exchange like some really insulting words towards one, you can expect to be told to go fuck yourself, can't you? They're both prickly characters in that regard. Relationship-wise, friendship, not that easy for them. They do work well. Richard's all right, though. He works well with others. He's decent enough lad, actually. To compare Richard by character to like people I've known, because he's from the Wirral. He's like a working class lad who's spent a lot of time in pubs and in nightclubs and things like that. He's lived that life. He's been that guy, and it's like as far as they go, he's like one of the best of a very bad bunch of people. Probably a reformed bad guy, a reformed player. But it's like, same with me, it's like me, life-wise, I've had so many reverses now that it's like terminal. It's just like, I'm 48, I got nothing, right? But I'm still alive and I know where I went wrong. So from my experience of failure and betrayal and naivety, not understanding, but I know better now, don't I? I know better. I know where I went wrong, and in that there's some knowledge. That is something, isn't it? So it's like through suffering one would gain wisdom, and through loss one would learn gratitude for what one has. He's not beyond that. He's just in himself, right? It's not the man you're judging with him. It's actually with him, he is the quality of his word, because he does know a thing or two, but he's not a perfect specimen. He's like myself, he's like Tommy Sotomayor. Flawed people, flawed individuals who know something. It's like we've escaped from hell, and we did our best to learn as much as we possibly could while we were down there. We ain't perfect people. We're sinners. We escaped the fucking place. You know, we're not angels. We're escapees from hell. It's like the knowledge, good. The man, well, he's only a broken vessel would know what someone like he knows, someone like I know. Only a broken vessel would know that. To know it, you could have read about it, but you have to have been in the shit to know what the shit is. So to cast aspersions on Richard's mental health would be to say, if we were going to start playing the game of diagnosing things, it's like, Richard, you could likely have at every stage of his life diagnosed him with a different cluster B personality disorder depending on the day, the week, the month, the year. Depending on his mood, depending on what company he's in. Same can be said for me. with me, you could, when I was first, well, it's like my brain started really getting thrown apart when I was in my mid-20s, when them stupid NHS doctors told me I was in danger of sudden death and wouldn't live till I was 35. Right? Doctors, fucking idiots, they put me in that position. So it's like I started to unravel then, and I wasn't so well put together in the first place. You're gonna die. So it's like that was an error because someone didn't know as much as they should have done. What's the lesson to learn from that? Don't fucking trust them people. Don't trust doctors. If you get told something like that, you can say, what's your evidence? Nowadays, they'll probably provide it, but them days, they didn't have to. There was no computer on the desk for them to look it up. I could tell a story in my life that's been one, disappointment, betrayal, fucking rug pull, con, after the next. It's like eventually you learn that you're playing an active part. It's like you don't have to do that. You don't have to. But what does that leave you? Really? It leaves you cancel flat. Webcam. That's what you end up with. If you want to end the cycle of abuse, right? You have to go no contact, don't you? You have to work out what you are without that constant henpecking, without that constant conflict. There might not be a conflict there, but hey, some of us bring the conflict with us. Some of us are, we're keen to fight. It's like, you be that this day and age. There's no place for you. So that'd be true for Mr. Grannon. That'd also be true for Mr. Vaknin. Mr. Vaknin is not a credible teacher, professor. He is an expert and he does get to speak. But he is a fraud. He's a liar. He's a grifter. He's a narcissist. He's been to prison for fraud. And when he went to prison, he was absolutely like, what the hell is this? This is an absolute injustice. Who are these people to put me in prison? And he ripped off a load of people. So it's like in coming to understand his own, deeply flawed, highly intelligent criminal nature. So what's he got left now? What's he got left he can do for a job? Well, he's the first guy who started to compile all the knowledge together, or what he says, on the internet. And he's Vaknin, he's probably responsible for the fucking mistaken and clunky fucking language and disastrous diagnostic criteria we've got. Because, say, Vaknin has invented certain phrases and words and ideas which are incorrect because Vaknin splits. Something that I'm against with both of those guys, right? And they both get it because they've got it in them, right? No human, it doesn't get it. And you're talking about narcissists and you're talking about sociopaths. It's like most narcissists you will meet in your life who are strangers or people you got to know wouldn't cause you a minute's trouble because fundamentally they are cowards. And they would be, you get them, when they come into the power around you, that's when they're arseholes, when they're getting to know you. They're no threat at all. They don't bring anything. It's like they're not a threat. And if you get a whiff that, this person might be a little bit up their own arse, it's a matter of, you know something. It's like, how's that guy a threat to you? How's a narcissist a threat? You get narcissists who are interesting as fuck, highly specialised, and because of their obsessive nature have become really good at things. And they tear through the world, but some don't do harm. Some only stick around amongst their own kind of people who don't get attached like that. They can be fuck buddies and they can pretend it's meaningless because they're fucking trained up, aren't they? Like, the mistake that they've been making from the start is sadism is the threat. Sadism and narcissism together. That's the killer. Sadism and borderline personality disorder is the stuff of fucking electrocuting people to death, frying them in the fucking bathtub and setting houses on fire, stabbing people. Setting the place on fire just to see it burn down. That's the one. You mentioned it recently, Vitamin actually, that sadistic personality disorder was removed from the DSM so people couldn't medicalise or make insanity plea excuses for extremely evil acts. So it's like, oh, suddenly so psychology doesn't matter no more. You're calling that criminal. So you've taken away the tools of the diagnostic manual, which once upon a time would describe to anyone the patterns of behaviour of a sadist. And the differences between the patterns of behaviour of a sadist and a narcissist, they're more or less the same. It's like a bully that enjoys picking on people. A bully that enjoys hurting people. A human that enjoys humiliating and eventually like murdering people because they enjoy it. You hear of people in authority, or I've known many of them, who should never have been in charge of anyone and would be absolutely drawn to arbitrary power, and it's the power that they dream of, and the reason why they dream of the power is so they can punish, because that's what they enjoy. It's like, that is like crack. How did you learn about that, John? How did you learn the lessons of that? So you have school teachers like mine who used to get off on beating you up. You have school bullies who learn it. Do cruel shit. It's like, he's enjoying this. It's like, this is fun for them. They're cackling like hyenas. They enjoy this. They're doing it for fun. They will take someone apart for sport. You hear of gangs of kids doing fuck things to people, leaving them for dead. You hear of it. Something that goes on, something that happens. It's like, you be part of that and enjoy it. You can't not. Remember that. They get addicted to it. They get addicted to it. They become sadists, and it becomes a drug in itself. And they need more, and they need more, and they need more, and they need more. And it's morbid. That's the threat to us. That's the threat to all of us. That's the forces in the world that will see us fucking dead. And what is it? It's like people who will do harm because they enjoy it. They're the people that when I'm saying bad people, it's like there's a big spectrum. Those who are in a mania, who lose it, snap, and then become sadistic real quickly. It's like their ability to pull the rug on people who've never seen that shit before is off the scale. Like magic. Really shock someone when suddenly you let it be known to them that you've just like a massive fan of ultra violence. Gets you off. It's like, I tell you something, it's like you run across them in life and you'll not forget. And it's like, I'm someone who's like, people are like this. This is bad. And it's like, the things that they say give it away. They say this. They take delight in the suffering of others and are happy to be the one inflicting the pain. Now, people who head out in towards that tendency, see, that's another thing that they remove from the DSM. All sexual related, all sex related psychological disorders. So we reach for that. Psychosexuality. So the guy who likes beating on people, well, that's only one side of his psyche. There's another side of his psyche that's perverted and likes to do sexual violence. Same person. It's like, they are the dangerous people in the world. Sadists. We don't pick up on it. It's titillating. People giggle. That's a bit wrong to say, but it's a big problem. People talk about narcissism. You can read it 1,000 ways. The guy who's locked in his, like, because they're around people who are locked in the bedroom, right? I've got a living room, I got, the whole run of the house. But there are those who are like locked in a bedroom all day. You don't think they're narcissistic. You don't think they're narcissistic. It's like they're no threat to no one, doing nothing. Do you not think they're not in their tendencies narcissistic? Absolutely. Things have not gone right for people like that. And that'll be down to what they've been through, their experiences. What they think the world is, how afraid they are. Internet's distilled that into hatred and started to earn money from it. Like, they're not dangerous people. They're not people who, they might fantasize about, doing fuck shit, or, well, they don't do it. But I'm saying there are those who do. And we pretend they don't exist. You do evil things because you fucking enjoy it. It puts a great big grin on your face and makes your dick hard. Happy for you. Ha! But, when as final word, it's like, when they've started a group, the victims of Richard Grannon, no one will have a tale like that to tell, I'll guarantee it. There'll be stories about aliens,